Hi, this is Adam Blaylock, and you're listening to Adam the Movie Guy. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the show. Warning, the show you're about to listen to contains strong language and an unhinged host. Don't take me too serious, I'm doing a bit here, so stay the fuck off my back. Enjoy. If this shocks you, if this offends you, then you clicked on the wrong fucking podcast. Welcome everyone to a very special bonus episode of Adam the Movie Guy, where I'll be interviewing someone very near and dear to me, covering 1970s horror films, and just basically shooting the shit with them on their experience growing up in the 70s. Now, before we get to the main course, I want to give a quick update in regards to my next Friday the 13th retrospective. Now, for the past couple of retrospectives, I've been doing parts 1 through 4. I know I've been breaking them down piece by piece, segment by segment, breaking it down the plots, the characters, the trivia, and all that other cool bullshit. But for the next 3, specifically 5, 6, and 7, I'm just going to change it up a little bit and do one big episode covering those 3 in particular. And I'm not going to go as deep with them individually, mostly because, well, aside from part 5, I never really gave too much of a shit about part 6 and 7. And not to say I don't like those films. Well, I mean, I don't really like 7. But to me, I just never really gave those films that much attention, even though I've seen every damn film in the series multiple times. But just in regards to 6 and 7, I just was never really too keen on rewatching those. And in regards to seeing how that's going to affect my retrospective for them, what I'm going to do is I'm still going to give the overall synopsis of each film, 5, 6, and 7, and talk about various things and positives that I like about those films, and in regards to 6 and 7, and a little bit on 5, what I didn't like about those films. Also, I'll touch on my favorite characters of each films and basically give my 2 cents about them. I'm just not going to go as deep as I am one-on-one. To be honest, I'm just going to be saving that for part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. And I got to tell you, you're going to be surprised on my take of the movie when I get to that. But without further ado, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this special episode and get into the interview with someone very special to me. Enjoy! All right, welcome everybody to the interview portion of this show. This is Adam the Movie Guy here. Well, I mean, you clicked on the beginning of this episode, so you know who the fuck I am at this point. I'd like to introduce someone very near and dear to me, someone who's basically a second father in my life, Sam Martinez. Say hi to the people, Sam.
Hey, hello there, everybody. Thank you, Adam, for having me. I really appreciate it,
Yeah, I had to pay him a lot of money to agree to be on this shit show. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. You all know I'm broke by this point. Yeah. Anyway, basically the subject of this is going to be the 1970s films and what his experience with those films are individually and what he thought of them. Let's start off with The Exorcist. What do you think of The Exorcist, Sam? Have you seen it in theaters?
Oh, yeah, when it first came out, went there with the wife, and it was really scary, but we really liked it. It was really nice. It's a good movie,
Now, back in the day, this would have came out in 1973. You would have been about 13, 14, if I'm not mistaken, right? Around that age or so?
When it first, yeah. You're pretty young,
Do you remember all the buzz about the film when it was coming out, all the whispers and, what people were thought, all the hype behind it? Do you recall seeing it on opening night, or did you wait kind of like the next week or the following week to see it?
Yeah, we saw when it first came. Well, I take that back. Not when it first came out. When it came out, probably a couple after. I was thinking about another movie, actually, another horror movie that I saw with the wife. But yeah, we saw it a little bit after. I really didn't want to go see movies when they first come out, like the very first showing, because they get so crowded and everything. And because back in the day, those to see a movies, it's not like today where you have iPads, you have games, you have other different kind of stuff, and pretty much everybody and their mother went to the movies, and I really didn't want to, even though that was the thing back in the day, the in crowd, I really don't want to get in there and kind of be crowded with the people. So we went, maybe it was a couple years after. No, not even a couple years. Like I said, it's been such a long time, and I'm trying to fix myself with the actual movies that we saw, because we saw so many horror movies, and that was a thing back in the day,
What were your thoughts on The Exorcist after you saw the film back in the day? Did you like it?
Yeah, I did. Did
you think, what the fuck did I just watch with some of the fucked up things that were in that movie?
It was scary, although I like scary movies, so I really wasn't scared that much, but a lot of people were. Especially back in the day, with a bunch of, especially in the 70s and 80s when they came out with a lot of horror movies and they didn't have this technical they have now, it was more like real, or surreal, versus the movies that come out now, you feel like the way they made those movies, like it was it was like for real, not a lot of modern technology that they have now. So you kind of felt like you were in that movie,
Kind of experiencing it with the characters in a sense?
Yeah, exactly. Because it was, the way they made the movies back in the day, without the technology and all this stuff they have now, it was pretty simple. They only have so much technology to make a movie, so it was pretty much almost real. When you're watching a movie and you see the pictures and the characters and the way they made it, it wasn't too flashy, not too much action, and it was pretty nice. You felt right there versus the movies that they show nowadays. Nowadays with these movies and everything, it's just, they're faster. They're using a lot of technical, just a lot of gizmos and stuff that kind of throws you off, and it just kind of, sometimes they're good movies. I'm not saying they're not, but sometimes it could be for mine, a little bit much,
in regards to The Exorcist, with some of the content that was in that movie, where I actually rewatched the original Exorcist about, I'd say 4 or 5 months ago, roughly. And it still shocks me to this day in regards to content, because you got this, 12-year-old Linda Blair at the time saying, really screwed up shit with the language, pissing on the floor, her head's going all the way around. And dear God, you remember what she did with that crucifix.
Yeah, that was something.
Holy shit.
Wow, it was amazing. Well, I shouldn't say amazing. The way she just put it, it was just crazy.
For the film, like, I recall the book. I mean, that was in the book. I'm just shocked that they actually adapted it to screen. I mean, because the language itself was already shocking for 1973 audiences, I'm assuming, because, I mean, compared to, the shit you see on TV today, where they can pretty much do anything language-wise, or sexuality, violence, or whatever, I'm still shocked by some of the things I see today. Now, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes back in 1973, seeing that kind of content on the big screen. I bet it hit people like a bus, in regards to the content of what they were able to get away with back in the day, especially for the 70s, where content today, well, yeah, I get shocked a couple of times, but when I watch that OG Exorcist, I'm still shocked by what they were able to pull off.
Yeah. A lot of people were shocked, but I guess they were shocked because of what she did, but they weren't like offended or anything by that. But it was, like I said, the way the movie was, and it wasn't because of the bright lights and stuff that they have now, all the LEDs and stuff like that versus back in the day. So when a lot of the movies that they made, like The Exorcist, you notice that it was kind of dark. If you notice when you're watching, and a lot of people probably didn't even think about that, but when you're watching like that particular movie, it wasn't like really bright. It was kind of, not that it was that dark, but it was just enough light for you to see the movie comfortably and see everything that was in that movie. but it wasn't like some of these movies they have, horror movies, where it's just so bright and the light is just a lot. And it's like, you're watching a horror movie, it should be a little bit dark, kind of a little creepy, I'm saying, a little eerie and,
almost gothic in a certain sense.
Exactly. And that's what it was. It was a lot of these old movies were, like you just said, gothic. It's like really, now it's just, I think they're trying to, with all this modern technology, I think they're doing a little bit too much, even though the people do like it, because especially the younger generation, they're getting into that, unless they go back and watch the movies back in the day, and they see that and they're saying, oh, okay, I see the difference now. Yeah, you got the more lighting, you got the more technical, but it's not the same as, before when, everything was really eerie and it felt real, like, wow, the even the costumes that they, whether whatever costume they use, even going back into the horror where you're a wolf man, a Frankenstein, the costumes were, they weren't over the top like a lot of these costumes, and I know they got the designer, makeup artists. I mean, they're better. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, they come a long way with the designs, the costumes and all that. The artistry of it all, but it kind of takes away when you do a little bit too much. And I see a lot of costumes, whatever the new horror movies are now, it's just different.
Yeah, I mean, in regards to the costuming department, just the whole cinematography in general of the 70s, it just has a special place for me personally whenever I view a film of that decade, mostly because they really, well, not in this case literally, I suppose, take you back to a time when, before we had all this fancy schmancy, technology and all that jazz and bullshit. It's just amazing how they were able to pull off all those incredible scenes, in regards for special effects, where, yeah, I know nowadays they could literally do anything with computers, but to rip off a quote and paraphrase a quote from Jurassic Park, Jeff Goldblum's character, just because you can do something doesn't mean you should
do something.
Exactly. But now moving forward about a year, 1974, I wanted to bring up another 1970s classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Do you recall seeing that back in the day?
I saw that, but I didn't see it to probably, I would say maybe the same thing, most of the movies back in the day, I didn't, saw them after, so it might have been maybe a year or two after the movie came out,
like re-releases or something?
Yeah, because it's been so many years. Like I said, it's been more than 40 years since I've seen them. I'm not going to lie to you and said, yeah, I saw it that particular year, that particular day. I know I've seen the movies, but to tell you, exactly what it could have been, anywhere from 6 months or maybe a year, 2 years after that movie came out, that I saw it.
When you did finally see it, though, how did you feel about it overall? Like, from a personal point of view. Did you like it?
Yeah, I liked it. A little bit gory, different. It was a good movie. I mean, there was a couple scenes that, maybe, could have been, a little boring, the way it was. But as the movie went on, and then when I, finished watching the whole movie and you put everything together, it was decent. I mean, like I said, for a movie, because I'm going back now, I'm thinking about the movies they make now versus back in the day where they could have did things differently.
Yeah.
But that movie was okay. Like I said, that one there. I liked it. Not to say that I'm a big fan of it. It was okay. And having said that, I'm more of a, Frankenstein. I go back, when they had the creature feature.
And the Universal monsters.
Yes, I'm going back. Those were my actual favorites. And anytime I got a chance to watch those on TV before cable and all these screening came out and stuff like that, streaming, I'm sorry, came out, that was my thing. Even though they came out with all these other movies that we'll, talk about, but, it was okay.
There is something I did want to touch upon what you said earlier in regards to Texas Chainsaw. Now, I hate to put you on the spot and be a dick, but you used the term gory. I know it's been years since you've seen that, and it's possible you might be conflating it with the sequels and the remake and the remake of the remake that they came out with. But that OG movie, shockingly as it is actually barely bloody. Now, if you watch the first one in particular, no, the sequels kind of went much more, gory.
Right.
But I feel like it's the title itself where it makes you think it's this bloodfest, particularly the first one, when shockingly, I guarantee if you watch that OG movie to this day right now, you'll barely see a drop of blood. I kid you not. That's the reputation it came out. Like, I even read vintage interviews back in 74 saying it was a gore fest, and I've seen that film like 6, maybe 7 times. I actually saw it with Sue at the drive-in 2 years ago. Matter of fact, it was fucking amazing. Wow. But it actually wasn't that gory. That's the thing that blows my mind, because when someone says Texas Chainsaw Massacre, they think of the series as a whole. As a whole, it is gory, because if you see the sequels and the reboots, they're violent as shit.
Right.
But that OG movie, which was much more, they kind of implied violence. Like a perfect scene is when do you remember the fat ass kid in the wheelchair that I hate? Franklin, the brother in the wheelchair.
Oh, okay, right.
I fucking hate that character. But anyway, the scene when Leatherface sneaks up on them in the woods and he chainsaws him right in his gut, you actually don't see it, but it's just so violent, the idea of it, your mind kind of throws that image in your head and you're picturing it to be a bloodbath.
Right.
I think that's what makes that OG movie special, not to mention the actor that played Leatherface, Gunnar Hansen, he really made that role his, and I seen the other people that played him in the sequels. No one played him as good as he did, in my opinion.
Right. You're right about that. 2 things. And maybe that's the word that I should have used instead of gory. I should use the word, it was violent. But at the same time, you're right. I was thinking the whole series of that Texas Chainsaw, because when you asked me that question in my mind, I'm thinking, man, that whole series was like, wow. Like when you watch a certain horror movie, you might see the first one they make, it might not be, but they go with that. They make a one movie and they says, okay, and of course, they want to make the sequel, the second, third, fourth, whatever movie it is, they want to make it better.
Yeah.
So of course, people want more blood, more violent, more stuff that, than the very first movie, So having said that, that's what I was basing on, the whole series. But the first one, I used the wrong word, gory. I meant because back in the day, the way, they made movies and stuff, the violence, compared to, 40 years now, the way they kill people, the way they do the violence and everything is just, but because we didn't have those movies, that many, violence and stuff like that. So to us, like you're saying, it wasn't really no blood there. You're right. But because of the violence in those type of movies, because when they made, like when they made the vampire movie or Frankenstein and, Universal movies, stuff like that, you had the Wolfman kill, 1 or 2 people, but it was like a quick thing. He bit him on the neck, or
he choked them out, and they didn't show a damn thing because that was the 30s, 40s, and early 50s where they couldn't show that amount of violence on screen.
Right.
It's like when you were a kid watching creature features in the late 60s, early 70s. When they showed those films, they weren't violent at all. Yeah, they had the monster, whether it be the Wolfman, Dracula, or Frankenstein, choke the shit out of someone.
Right.
But you never actually see them die.
Right.
It's always just kind of like it cuts to their body being found or some bullshit like that, from what I recall.
Yeah, some of those movies, they call them horror movies, but to me, watching those movies, it would be more maybe horror / drama.
Yeah, or even thriller-ish.
Yeah, so it wasn't really, like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and all these other movies that, they came out. Yeah, you could call them horror movies, I guess, but, like the Frankenstein monster, he might kill 1 or 2 people. The vampire, he's gonna, in the neck, he's gonna bite, 2 or 3 people. So yeah, it was no blood, it was no really like gory stuff like that. So even though they were characterized under the horror, but like these old movies, they were more like horror / drama.
Especially The Wolfman, where there was a lot of family drama in that movie with him and his father, if you recall.
Right.
Sir John,
You're right.
Lawrence Talbot, and his father, from what I remember, that he's actually my favorite Universal monster. And I'm actually glad you brought this subject up, because it gives a perfect introduction to the next movie I wanted to talk about. Specifically, when you said how some films weren't pure horror, they were more horror drama or more thriller-ish.
Right.
The next film I wanted to bring up, and my personal favorite film that, I'm obsessed with, you knew this since I was freaking 15, since you knew me my whole life, Jaws.
Jaws, yeah.
Now, Jaws is my favorite film. When this came out in 1975, summer of 75, do you recall seeing it in theaters, or did you see it on home video eventually? Do you recall that back in the day?
You know what? I think if I remember correctly, I saw it on home videos.
Didn't you see it with my mom, if I recall correctly?
Yeah. I'm trying to think back. Some of these movies, when they came out, and then for some, because back in the day, they were out like 2, 3, 4 years, and then some theaters, small theaters, would put them in the theater.
Oh, for re-release, you mean?
Yeah, re-releasing it in the theaters. That's why, going back, I'm trying to remember.
They did that for Jaws 2. I saw the documentary when they were talking about Jaws 2. They re-released the first one in 78.
Well, the first one, when we were in Houston 2 years ago, I'm trying to remember the name. Cinemark, they had like a matinee, and they were showing, and they showed the first movie, Jaws.
Yep, me and Susie caught that in theaters. It was freaking amazing.
Yeah, in the screen, and what they did was and I don't know the technical term, but what they did was they made it like the sound editing. They
remastered it.
They remastered it.
Touched it up and shit, make it fancier.
Touched up the colors.
Yeah, it looked beautiful on that
sound,
screen. Yeah,
because it's the same thing. When I talk about the movie, back in the day, in the 70s and 80s, again, even the sound, whether it's music or noise, coming from whatever the creature or whatever have you, they came a long way too. In 40 years, with sound, how they do the sound now. The sound, it sounds a lot better now.
Yeah.
With the sounds nowadays. Because of the woofer, tweeter, mid-range, whatever the speakers are, and how they do that. The music, the sound, the speakers, they sound a lot better than what they did back in the day. Even though back in the day, to us, it was sound because that's all they had. So it was great. And people didn't care back in the day about the sound. If you're watching Jaws, and they're going boom, 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 I mean, that alone scares the shit out of somebody, and to them. So they're not thinking about how they're making that sound, that noise. They're just thinking about that noise itself. The whale, the shark coming, people screaming. Nowadays
nowadays you can hear you can hear a bead of sweat hit the floor practically.
Right. It's different. When you're watching TV back in the day, and the TV to us was fine.
Yeah.
Now they have these TVs where if a person is really close up, you can see the pores in their face.
Oh, with the high definition,
High definition. Whether it's high definition 4K, it's like amazing. It's like, but again, depending on the generation gap, how you are, to us was like, what, I personally, and I know, with technology. So if I'm watching a whole TV that doesn't have high, HD, or it's not a 4K, it's just an older TV, but I'm watching an old movie, I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, it's so clear nowadays when you watch an 80s film, I could literally see the remnants of cocaine from their fucking noses.
Yes.
But touching on the genre thing I mentioned earlier about Jaws, though, you know how some people label it as a horror film, some people label it as adventure, some people label it as drama. I think the most accurate thing to label it as would be thriller, because it's all of that combined, in my opinion, at the very least. Now, I'm a horror guy through and through. Well, excuse me, did I say horrors or horror?
Horror. Yeah, you said horrors, but that's okay, horror.
Well, I'm a that guy too, but I'm just kidding. But I'm a horror guy through and through. But the more I think about it, the older I get, when I look at Jaws, and I look at Jaws and I just see it fitting in multiple genres all at once, being action, being horror, being drama, and even a little bit of comedy sprinkled in there. That's why I think Thriller overall kind of hits the nail right in the head, because I feel like it's all encompassing and it just nails it overall, how it sums up all those parts together, which I wanted to talk into our next film, The Omen, 1976. Did you see The Omen back in the day?
No, I saw The Omen, probably maybe, I don't know, a couple years after or something like that when it came out. And, maybe I saw it one more time throughout the years. It was okay. It wasn't one of my favorites. It's a movie that I can say maybe one and done, even though I probably saw it again on TV. It was nothing else on TV, so it was just happened to be there, a few years down the road. But yeah, I remember some parts, but not, like a lot. When you're watching a movie and you're watching it just to watch it, just to see how it was, how it came out, and it was okay, to tell you exactly, what the movie, and not to say what the movie was about, but it wasn't really one of my favorites.
It's crazy thing for me personally is because for years I saw Omen I was about 17 years old for the first time when I saw The Omen, and the first time I actually didn't like it, and I actually turned it off 40 minutes into the movie saying, yeah, this is no Exorcist, I just can't do this. But years later, fast forward about 3 years, and I hear they're making a prequel, the first Omen that just came out recently. It's on Hulu now as we speak. And I said, well, okay, they're making a prequel to the OG film. And I thought, wow, okay, they're making a prequel to almost 50-year-old movie. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe I should give the first one a second chance. And I gotta tell you, when I rewatched that OG film, I fell in love with it. And I thought, what the fuck was wrong with me back then? Maybe just because I was a stupid 17-year-old and, well, now I'm a stupid 28-year-old. And it's just like seeing the film and really finishing it from point A to F. I just love the drama side of it, even ironically more than the horror side, even though I'm a horror movie nut job, which, touching upon the sequel, which evolved the film perfectly in such a great way for me organically, what they touched upon at the end of the first one with him being adopted. Do you recall seeing the sequel that came out in 78, if I'm not mistaken, The Omen 2? He's about 13 years old in that movie. Do you recall?
You know what? I don't think I remember. I might have seen that movie, the second one, but I don't recall. I can't, off the top of my head, think of exactly what was it about or anything like that. Like I said, when I saw the first one, I mean, I understand what you're saying about movies, because when I saw Jaws, I liked it. The people thought, when they first saw it, but it seems like when I saw it the second time and even the third time Jaws, it's like it got better and better. You understand it more and you get really into it. Not to get ahead of myself, but like series, like the Game of Thrones. When the Game of Thrones first came out, and I saw the 8 seasons and everything, but there was a lot of stuff that not a lot. There was a few stuff that I didn't understand or I missed. When I saw it again, the second time, I'm like, oh, that's what he meant by this, or that's why it happened, or that's why that person, the kid's dad or something like that. So it kind of brought watching it for the second time, because that series, the Game of Thrones, can get confusing if you don't. And people would tell me, when you watch it, you really, really got to pay attention. You can't, some shows that you're watching, if you're not pausing, if you get up and walk away, or even if you're watching and you just, your mind goes for 10 seconds, you can't, because you can miss a lot. The way that series is, and it's the same thing with some of the old movies. If you're sitting there and you're watching a movie and you hear the people talk, you really have to pay attention. I mean, granted, it's not like nowadays where, all the movies are so fast paced, you really, really got to pay attention. Back in the days of movies and stuff were a lot slower. But even some of the horror movies that I watched for the very first time, they were okay. But then either when I watch it again, either I say, wow, this is better than the first time, or it's like, nah, it's not as good, watching the second go round, not as good as I thought it was.
I know how you feel because when I saw that Christopher Nolan movie that came out about 2 years ago, Tenet, I saw that with Mark in theater, and holy shit, if someone were to ask me what the plot of that movie was to this day, I still couldn't explain it. But back to 76, I want to talk about the next film. Do you recall Brian De Palma's Carrie?
Yeah, you know what? It's funny you say that because I like the movie. Like that was with the blood and everything that you talk about. I don't want to say maybe gory, but wow, especially at the prom, that was something else. That was like when we saw the movie for the first time, it was kind of like over the top, with the blood and the way
with the pig blood and
the way she was, the people were trying to run out, and they were caught in that, and you could say it was good, or you could say maybe they went a little bit too far with it, especially when they were running out of the auditorium where they were at having the prom, but with Carrie, I think most people, when people mention the movie or, the word Carrie, the very first thing that come out is at the end where the grave,
with the hand
comes out of the grave. That's the very first thing that comes to my mind. I like the movie Carrie. I felt sorry for the girl. I can see why. It's like one of those revenge movies.
Well, yeah.
And I get that. So I liked it, but I'm not going to say that it was one of my favorite. It's a movie that I can see once or twice, but it's not on my.
Not in your top 10.
Right, not in the top 10.
Didn't you see it with my mom in high school?
Yeah, we saw it early. We didn't see it when it first, but
because you would have been about 17 at the time. Yeah,
we saw it. After it came out, not when it first. Like I said, but yeah, we saw it and it was good. Like I said, it was. Me and your mom, we a lot of the movies that we saw, to some people they were like really, really scary, and they probably were.
Yeah.
But me and the wife, we were so strong that even the movie was scary. It's not like we figured, oh, we're gonna have nightmares or we're gonna be like, nah. It was nah. Some of them we even laughed at. If somebody got slashed or killed. We'd be laughing or
thrown across the room and shit.
Yeah, or the way it came about, it's like, people would be jumping off their seats. Well, no, we didn't jump off our seats. It was like, horror, funny, gory, but it was, some people are stronger than other people. Some people can't take blood. People can see blood all day long and, whatever, life goes on. But it was an okay movie.
One last thing I wanted to touch upon Carrie before we move on to the next film is one thing I never personally understood every time they adapt Carrie, and whether it be the live action films, the plays, or whatever the case may be, the fucking TV movie they made, is that first film in particular. You remember who played Carrie, right? Sissy Spacek?
Sissy Spacek, yeah.
Now, let's be honest. Sissy Spacek is so damn beautiful. Mm-hmm. Every time I watch that movie, it borderline almost takes me out of it because she's so attractive. I have a hard time believing any boy wouldn't want to approach her. Now, I know they were going for more of a awkward nerd, church mouse, shuttered in, type of girl. And I'm not sure if you knew this, but she almost didn't get the role because she was deemed too attractive until she showed up, I think the second or third day to apply herself for the role or rescreen again. She showed up in her own homemade dress and had her hair down in front of her face and looked mousy and shy. And that's what won her over, the producers over to the movie. And that's how she got the role. But don't you recall seeing her in the movie and be like, okay, are all these fucking high schooler boys blind as shit? Do they not see she's like the hottest person there?
Well, see, the thing is, in the movie, like a lot of actresses, in the movie itself, they made her look like a plain Jane.
Until she goes to the prom, though.
Right,
Holy
until she
shit.
goes to the prom. And that's the thing. She was beautiful, but, in the movie, they want to make her look like a plain Jane. Like, she's okay, but she's not beautiful. But if you really looked at a lot of the actresses, that even were beautiful back in the day. You know, yeah, they're putting on makeup, so they really look attractive.
Yeah.
But without the makeup, you know, you could look at a girl or a woman in the shows back in the day, or even to this day. You know, because I've seen some, you know, sometimes where they have, you know, this is what she looks like now, like Lady Gaga.
Yeah.
Lady Gaga, you know, you see her, I'm not saying that she's ugly, but you see her when she's playing, I mean, she really looks homey, you know.
Well,
not
yeah.
to sound bad, she really looks homey. She's not that really attractive. But then on some of her shows, or where, you know, she's doing a concert or whatever, and you know, she puts that makeup on, I'm not, you know, really.
Well, yeah, she's like, dolled up to the nines.
Yeah, and I've seen Anne Hathaway. You look at Anne Hathaway, same thing. Anne Hathaway, she'll put a little bit of, not a lot, a little bit of makeup, a little bit of lipstick, and she looks beautiful.
I mean, hell, I'm ugly as shit, and I'm pretty sure if I throw on makeup, I'll be at least an 8.
I've seen Anne Hathaway without makeup, and it's like, well, not that she looks ugly, but it's like that makeup, and that's what a lot of, you know, with getting back to Sissy Spacek, I mean, it's the same thing. Beautiful girl, but, you know, that wasn't their intention of making her, you know, they're making her look like a plain Jane because of the, you know, the high school and everything, nobody's into her, you know, and then she puts on the makeup, and she's beautiful. Yeah.
It helps that her acting really carried it, and you believe that she was this overly sheltered girl who knows nothing about the wider world, and who just has this god-awful, overbearing, Bible-thumping, psychotic-ass mother, who, on a side note, she was pretty hot, too, for a mom, I gotta say that. Yeah. But moving on to our next film, now this one is a special one, because you'll know it as my mom's favorite, 1978's Halloween. Do you recall that movie back in the day?
Curtis.
Yep.
Yeah, that when that came out, you know, me and your mom, we both liked it. I mean, really, really liked it. I liked it because I like, you know, the Jamie Lee Curtis and Donald Pleasant.
Yep.
You know, I mean,
the man himself.
Yeah, it was just the way the movie was made. You know, it was really, really good. Not too crazy. You know, didn't go over the top. You know, especially at the year it came out.
Yeah.
You know, versus other horror movies. You know, and stuff like that, and thrillers. We really liked it. You know, to me, it was very, very good. You know, now that I definitely would put that one in my top 10.
Same here.
You know.
Now, on one hand, my favorite horror film franchise is Friday the 13th. On the other hand, though, that original Halloween movie just feels so elevated above so many other horror films, and admittedly over the original Friday the 13th, even though I think highly of that. It's also on my top 10. But there's something special about popping in the OG Halloween film during the October Halloween season.
Right.
It just hits different, you know? And overall, that movie, I have many fond memories of seeing it with my mom, because she would always, you of all people know back in the day, she would always laugh at the most funniest scenes, and even the not so funny scenes of people getting their asses kicked. Right. She would just laugh her ass off, and that always stood out to me, and always kind of watching movies with her just brings up fond, you know, memories of her just thinking back with that movie in particular.
Well, that's the thing. This movie, you know, like we were kind of touching up a couple of days ago. Actually, we had this conversation about how some movies, you know, they come up with a title, and it's a very good title, but the title doesn't match the movie.
Yeah.
Or the movie doesn't match the title. But when you have this movie and it's called Halloween, you know, the Halloween, it matches, to me, in my opinion, it matches the movie, you know, and that's what made it, you know, like, okay, Halloween is like, wow, Halloween, you know, and then of course when Halloween comes around, you know, people, you know, got that movie, and it matches, and I'm sure a lot of people out there put that in there, you know, meaning when Halloween comes around, whether it's the day of Halloween or that week, and people they're going to put that movie, you know, up there, probably in the top 5, you know, for the Halloween, if they're going to have a party or they're going to, you know, watch a movie, Halloween, because it just matches, to me, it matches the movie, Halloween.
Yeah, for the Halloween series as a whole, you know, minus part 3, which, on a side tangent, guys, all you listeners out there, I'm going to go off on a side tangent about Halloween 3 real quick. It was a great film, and for people who won't give it a chance, please just sit down and watch it. Look, I get it. It's not a Michael Myers film. He had nothing to do with it. This is its own little B movie. It's fucking great. I mean, the only reason why that people shit on it is because Michael wasn't in it and it had nothing to do with the rest of the series. And I know this goddamn argument that everyone makes that, oh, if you change the title to just Season of the Witch, we fucking know. We know, you broken records. We get it. Okay? Trust me. But what I'm trying to say is, please just give the damn film a chance. I'm tired of people shitting it all over it. I'm tired of seeing Halloween 3 on worst horror films of all time. Like, I actually read a book about horror films, top horror films of the 80s, and it also had a little section of the worst films, and this fucking prick author had the balls to put Halloween 3 on it, and it just made me want to put their head through a fucking door. Sorry, guys, I had to get that out of my system. Back to our conversation in the interview, before I go completely unhinged, I want to talk about the final film of the interview. Are you ready?
Yes.
That final film is 1979's Alien with Sigourney Weaver. Oh, do you remember that movie?
Yeah, I remember that movie. I like that movie. With Sigourney Weaver, I mean, you just can't not say the movie without her, You
can't see the series without her, I mean.
Yeah, I think she's the main. I really like the movie. I don't know. I like that movie, but again, if you're talking about horror movies or, Universal or something like that, if you're putting it in that category, I really like the movie. I know a lot of people did. I don't know if I would put that, maybe I would put that in my top 10, definitely not my top 5, but, I could probably fit that in there because I know it was very popular. It was a very, very good movie. Mm-hmm. And I liked it. It was good.
Did you see it in theaters though, or no?
No.
Do you wait till it was a home video?
We saw it in theater, but it was like after one of those years after when it
was a re-release.
Yeah, the re-release. They show movies, and
I know they re-released it. Same thing with Jaws. With do you remember the sequel Aliens that came out in '86, if I'm not mistaken? Which was a follow-up double question was: do you prefer the horror-esque, focused version of the first movie, or do you prefer the more action horror of the second movie? Which camp do you fit in?
You know what? My Aliens, the first one, I really liked. Sometimes when they make sequels, it's either yes or no, meaning mm-hmm. it's either good or no good. And it was okay, but mm-hmm. I'm always going to go with the first one.
Yes,
that's my opinion. The first Alien, you cannot beat that.
Thank you. You made me so happy because whenever I ask someone this question, they always say Aliens, the second one. And I love that film, don't get me wrong, but it's just, I feel like personally, and this is just me because I lean more toward horror, I like how it's more, the first one was a pure horror film compared to the second, mm-hmm. which is action horror, which, okay guys, second tangent, I have to get this out of my system and bash my boss real quick. Okay, Alien 3, real quick, because I just can't let this fucking go. I had this conversation with my boss, great guy, but this fucking guy told me that he puts Alien 3 over the new Alien Romulus movie. Now, my boss is a great guy. I respect his opinion, but I gotta ask him this, and this is coming straight from the heart and with all the respect I can muster. Are you out of your goddamn mind? Why the fuck would you put Alien 3 over Alien Romulus? I cannot let that shit go. Now, okay, I'm not going to suck off Alien Romulus here because upon rewatching, yes, I do get the criticisms that it relies too heavy on nostalgia. I can't defend that. It does. Having said that, though, you cannot tell me with a straight face that Alien 3 is better than Alien Romulus. No fucking way. And I'll tell you why. Alien 3 literally took the ending of Aliens, all the happy and joy that Ripley fought for, and just ripped it from her fucking arms and stomped it to the fucking ground in front of her. It basically said, fuck your hopes, fuck your dreams. Nothing in this world matters except misery. Seriously, that movie, just after watching it for the third or fourth time, I'm preparing to watch Alien Romulus, made me want to take my ass and to walk into oncoming traffic. It made me want to fucking drink bleach. Okay, maybe that was a little harsh. But overall, fuck Alien 3, I'm sorry. Sorry, boss. I couldn't let this go. Oh, sorry, Sam, I forgot you were there. I was going off on an unhinged tangent. You're good, though, right?
It's all good.
Yeah, sorry, I had to get that toxicity out of my system. Ugh. Now my boss is probably going to put my head through a fucking door when he hears this. Nah, totally worth it. Fuck Alien 3. But to close out this interview, I want to just reiterate that the films of the 70s were just so built different compared to the films I see today. And again, I'm not trying to suck off the 70s, film genre, or films that were released that decade, but I got to be honest, I just truly believe that the 1970s as a whole, and not just the horror genre, were the best decade ever for films and cinema in general. How would you feel about that statement personally, since you grew up during that era?
I totally agree. Like I said, anytime I get a chance, and I do some streaming, and I do have DVDs, all my DVDs of the horror films and everything, but if I'm watching like on a Saturday night, if I'm home and there's not a football game on, and there's something on TV like on Svengoolie or something like that, and they're having one of the Universal monster movies, I'll right away I'll put that on, and watch that versus these streaming or these movies that are on today, because it just brings me back. Not only back in the day, back in the 70s, but the way they made the movies, not too much techno in there, and it just sounds like you're there, the way that you're looking at the picture, it's not too bright, the noise doesn't have to be perfect, with the sound, the way the sound comes out, and it was better. Like I said, I see these movies now and they're just a lot of these movies are too loud, yeah, granted I'm older, but it's too loud, it's too bright, it's too fast, the action, whether it's an action movie, drama, or let's say since we're talking about horror and thrillers, and the way they're making it, they're trying to make it look, these movies, like they're trying to make it, I think they're doing too much, versus if any of you people out there, if you ever really watched these movies from the 70s or the 60s, these horror movies, and you see how they were just low key. They're not moving, they're not fast action. They go at a pace. And that's what makes it good, because you understand these movies. You don't have to watch those movies a second or third time to understand what's going on in these movies. You can watch it once, and the pace that these movies are going through, it just makes it very entertaining and fun to watch.
Well, yeah, a perfect example was the original Halloween. To me, has a perfect pace. Hell, the OG Carrie, Brian De Palma's had a perfect pace. And this morning I was just rewatching old 1970s Giallo films, the Italian ones from back in the day, like, Bird with the Crystal Plumage. I can't even fucking pronounce that one, but Deep Red. And I was watching 1982's Tenebrae actually this morning. And I gotta tell you, just rewatching those films just makes me wish they kind of made them like they used to. I know that's like literally the oldest thing to say in the damn book, but I don't know. What can I say about the 70s? They were just a truly special decade, and I just feel like we'll never get something to that level on a consistent basis ever again, compared to back hits you had. I mean, yeah, sure, we'll get our special gems every now and then, like Late Night with the Devil. I saw it finally when it came to streaming not too long ago, and funny enough, guess what decade the movie takes place in?
The 70s?
The 70s. Goddamn right. But it was a fantastic movie, and I just love how the costuming, the cinematography, it actually looked like it was a film made in the 70s. And I actually love that, because it was about a TV show host, old school variety type show that they did in the late 70s that was very popular, like a kind of like the Sonny and Cher thing that they had back in the day. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And the film itself kind of evoked that, and I loved it personally for it. But to summarize the 70s as a whole, it was just a special time, and I just wish I grew up alongside with you during that time. But hey, I'm glad you got to spend some time with my mom watching all those classics back to back. And random tangent, because you kept bringing up Universal Monsters. I gotta know one thing. Who was your favorite Universal monster to close out the interview?
Oh my God! You know what? As soon as you said that, I just Bela Lugosi. You know,
Dracula.
Dracula.
Okay.
It was, I love Frankenstein. I love the Wolfman. The Mummy, even though the Mummy wasn't as popular as the Wolfman, and Frankenstein and Dracula. But one of the first movies that we, they came out, 1931 and 1934 of Dracula, black and white. It was, for some reason those, the way they had it was like drama, and it's my favorite. I know a lot of people prefer the Frankenstein monster or the Wolfman, and I can say that I like the three, the Wolfman, Frankenstein, and Dracula, all three of them together, but if you're asking me, really, what is your number one, a little nudge up there, it would have to be Dracula. That was my kind of like my,
that was your guy, huh?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to dress up. I didn't have any costumes. What I used to do is I used to take one of my mom's she had a large beach towel, and I used to wrap it around, and I used to make these faces. And
the cape.
I tried to scare my brother, saying I was Dracula. And then I had these plastic fangs that they had.
Nice.
They used to sell in stores. Some of them even had they were made out of candy.
Yep, I remember those back in the day.
Yeah.
Well, I wasn't alive back then, but I seen pictures of it and shit.
Right.
And personally, when it comes to Universal monsters, my favorite is always gonna be the Wolfman. Mostly because the OG one, you remember, played by Lon Chaney Jr., right?
Yes.
He was so damn sympathetic in every single movie to the point where I was like, is this guy's life ever gonna go the way he wants it? Like, does God himself hate this man? Because literally every fucking movie, this guy has to deal with some bullshit. But he does, yeah. He just has that sympathetic face. Yeah.
Yes, it's just, wow. And it's just, like I said, I love Lon Chaney Jr. Like I said, Wolfman probably would be my second, and Frankenstein if I had to. But, I kind of love all three of them together because I grew up with them. I wish they would come back out. I mean, I love Svengoolie at Saturday. Like I said, if there's no football, and if I'm tired of streaming, watching action, other stuff on TV, what I do sometimes on a Saturday night, I just kind of turn the TV on because, by us, it comes on at 7 o'clock Central, daylight saving time, and, Central time zone. But, and then I'll put on the channel just to see, because sometimes I don't know what, sometimes ahead of time they don't tell you what they're giving that particular, so I can't see until so if I'm watching a movie or something, I go in the bedroom and turn on the smaller TV and put it on there at 7 o'clock just to see what Svengoolie, the host, is going to say, well, on tonight's show is going to be Frankenstein, it's going to be the Wolfman, there's going to be something that, the Blob or something that I'm not really interested in, but if he says, it's going to be like a Lon Chaney Jr. Wolfman, Dracula, Frankenstein, then I'm like, okay, maybe I'll watch that, because even, they have that with the commercials and everything. I don't care.
Yeah.
That's how good I liked it. So what I'll do is I won't watch the other streaming shows that I'm watching. I'm like, Saturday night, I'll watch Svengoolie. I'll watch that for 2 hours. But sometimes we'll have some movies, that I don't really care for, so I'll do that. I wish they would come out with Creature Feature, back in the day, and they stopped doing that many, many years ago.
You said my mom loved that too, actually. Yeah, she mentioned that a couple of times before she passed. I remember the first time she brought it up, I was about 17 at the time, and she was just describing it to me, saying how she had so many fun memories, watching it. And she said it had a very unique intro, and I was curious. I'm like, oh, okay, let me see if I can find it. So, I look it up on YouTube, and I pull it up for her. I'm like, hey, Ma, is this a Creature Feature? The happiness on her face was so real and authentic. I wish you were in the room because you should have seen the smile. Her face just lit up, and she's like, oh, my God, that's it. Yeah. And she watched the whole thing, and she's like, oh, my God. Yeah. And she was just saying, this takes me back, many years. And it just makes me wish that they kept that, or at least, do a future iteration of it. Like, I know they still got Svengoolie because I know when you were growing up as a kid, there was the OG Svengoolie, and then the son of Svengoolie took over in 1979, and he's Richard Cogs or Cogs.
Yeah, Cogs.
Yeah, he still goes to this day. And I'm eventually thinking, well, he's eventually going to retire, and God, I'm going to be sad when that happens. But someone's probably going to take his place, like I don't know, Svengoolie the Third or some shit.
He's got to be. I mean, you can't really see because
because the makeup is heavy as hell. Yeah,
he's got to be. I don't know, 70 or something like that. Because he's been doing that for 40 years or whatever.
Yeah, for 79 is 40. Holy shit, he's been doing it for 45 years.
Yeah, a lot of people.
He looks great.
Yeah, a lot of people. They see the way he is. I mean, because he's been doing it for so many years, it's just like if they were to get somebody else in there, it's kind of hard, especially for me because I grew up with him, in those years, 70s, late 70s, 80s, 90s, all the way till now. And if I watch that and when the show starts, how the coffin opens and the host is right there. And if I see a different person in there, it's just not the same.
Yeah, it hits different. And, I just hope eventually when he does retire, I just hope whoever replaces him, not only keeps the Svengoolie name, like maybe Svengoolie the Third, like I said earlier, but I just hope they still have the same energy and enthusiasm that he has.
Right.
See, guys, see how this started off as a 1970s show, and then I quickly go off the rails. This is exactly what it's going to be like when I interview every single person. I like to keep people on their toes. But, well, guys, this is the end. I just wanted to thank Sam so much for being willing to listen to my unhinged ass interview and throw out random ass questions. And I just, I love him. He's my second father, and I would love to have him on the show again a second time if you'd be down. What do you say?
Absolutely. We can talk about a different topic. We can talk about the 70s, how it was crazy, whether it was sex, whether it was weed.
That 70s bush.
Yeah, it was, it was just a different era, compared to nowadays. It's just totally different,
But hey, thanks again so much, Sam, for agreeing to let me interview you. I can't wait for the next time you come on the show. And guys, thank you all for listening. This has been my first interview show. And well, now, as I said, this is how it's going to be, where I'm just going to go off the freaking handles, off the rails right away. I mean, hell, at this point, you pretty much expect it. What do you think? Do you think I should keep it up? You guys let me know. Nah, I don't give a shit. I'm going to keep it up anyway. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you again, Sam, for coming. And remember, fuck Alien 3. I'd rather drag my balls against broken glass than watch that shit again. But take care, guys. Bye.
Bye.